Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'll have with me guitarist Chris Holmes, and he'll talk all about his new documentary Mean Man, as well as his time in W.A.S.P. Chris also shares with us some great stories about auditioning for Ozzy, lending a guitar to Eddie Van Halen, what's the difference like between Chris and Gene Simmons, and much, much more. This is an episode you guys will really enjoy, I know it. At the start of the episode and the start of the chat, Chris's internet connection wasn't the best, but it gets a lot better in the second half. And I know you guys, if you stick with it, will really, really enjoy all the stories. Chris has a ton of great stories to tell. So I guess without further ado, let's jump in and get started with my conversation with the great Chris Holmes. So let me just start off by saying congratulations on the documentary Mean Man, the story of Chris Holmes, right? Came out about 3-4 weeks ago at this point. So congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made you decide to do a documentary at this point of your life?
It kind of wasn't me. It was my wife and Antoine. You know, they wanted to more. Since there's never really been a documentary done from W.A.S.P or anybody, you know, it was kind of I thought about it, and it was kind of a cool idea, you know, to show the ups and downs of the business, you know. It didn't bother me seeing, you know, touring in a car, you know, like when I used to play when I was 17 or 18, you know. After that in W.A.S.P, buses and all the crew and everything, but now I don't have it. And it didn't bother me showing it. I don't, you know, it's part of life. It's the way it is, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, to me, I think that's one of the things that comes through in the documentary is everybody knows Chris Holmes, the crazy rocker, right? But what I loved about the documentary is it shows to me different sides of you, right? On some scenes, you're there with your little dog, which I know you call Ugg, but I thought it was cute, right? You have a Winnie the Pooh Disney shirt on in some of the interviews. You're in an art gallery. Was that one of the things to you that you wanted to show these different aspects of who Chris Holmes is?
That's all the producer and him, Antoine and his buddies putting it together. They put it all together.
Okay.
You know.
When did you start working on it?
About 6 years ago. Antoine and I did an interview for his company called Duke TV, and he offered to do my first video of Let It Roar. So he came and we filmed it, and then he came a few months later. My first show I was in the front guy, you know, and he filmed that. And then from there he filmed a few other shows, and then him and my wife were talking about doing a documentary, and I kind of, the year went by, I thought it'd be a good idea to have what I've done documented, you know. A lot of people think I'm the guy like in The Decline, the movie. Right.
Right. So you're actually celebrating, I think, next week, 25 years of not drinking, correct?
February 6th of this year. In fact, in about a week, it'll be 25 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. You know, one of the things in the documentary, you do show a scene of you watching the decline of Western civilization, right? So when you watch that, what do you think when you see that 25 years later, knowing you are a different person now?
I have a lot of comments about it, and so to me, it's kind of embarrassing to watch, you know, in a way, but it's the way I used to live my life, you know, an idiot.
But you know, to me, a lot of rockers in the 80s, that's the way they were living their life. You were no different. There was Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, they were living the same lifestyle.
Yeah. I just got filmed.
Right. So true. Now,
at the right time, at the right place.
Mm-hmm. After you filmed it, I know Lita was with you, right? Lita Ford, who you were married to at the time. And she has said she thinks that killed your career. Do you think that helped kill your career or not really?
No, it definitely didn't kill your career. It boosted me up higher.
That's what I thought also.
You know, in the rock and roll fans. But Blackie, he couldn't believe that I did it back. I just went and filmed it. I was content with what I do. You know, you can take, I'm going to do what I do. That's just what happened. And there was a question that Lita said she was there.
Yeah, I think she wrote in her book that she was at the filming of that with you.
Well, let me tell you, if she was there, wouldn't she be in it? Think about that.
Great point.
Right?
Right.
But people get older and forget things. I don't know.
Sure.
But she would have been in it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. So, speaking of being in it, watching your documentary, one of the things that I find really cool is that you have a bunch of your childhood friends in the documentary, which to me blew my mind, because when people obtain the success that somebody like you had, usually you don't keep your childhood friends. You go on and you're friends with this one and this band, that one. So how did you maintain those friendships from your childhood?
Because I never considered it an success. I don't look at it that way. I don't look at it, that I achieved any. I mean, yeah, I sold records, or it was a dream to have a gold record at one time when you're young. But no, my friends are still my friends. I'd rather have those friends than my rock star friends.
Yep, well, they're true friends. These childhood friends, I'm sure. Absolutely,
the ones you grow up with,
without a doubt. So now let me ask you, going back to the early 80s, right, when you first joined WASP, and from my point of view, I was a big Kiss fan growing up, still am, but I saw WASP and I saw Motley Crue taking the theatrics of Kiss to a whole nother level, right? So with WASP, you had the raw meat on the stage, the logo in flames, a woman that you're whipping up on the stage, right? Was that some of the thought that you really wanted to take those theatrics to a whole nother level?
Early whole idea Sauna was from the movie The Road Warrior, Mel Gibson, second Mad Max. If you go back and look at that movie, you'll go, wow. The thing about the girl in the torture rack is the same thing about the people who didn't have doors on it and stuff. Well, so it's just like the movie. A lot of the clothes are from the movie. The songs and the idea, that's from that movie, And as stealing from Kiss, there's some, they inspired a lot of stuff. I will say, even today, 2021, the best concert I've ever seen in my life would be Kiss in 1975, still today.
Okay.
I hate saying that because I've toured with them and seen it, but as a concert, as exciting, as a sitting in the audience, best concert yet. I grew with some really talented musicians that are a billion times more talented than Kiss. That was still, as a show, from the minute it started to the end. When it was done, I wanted to see more. That's how you tell it's a good show. When it's an hour and 20 minutes and it's over in 2 minutes, it's a good show. As looking like Kiss or whatever, I was in a band with Blackie called Sister, and it was his idea. He said he was from the New York Dolls, whatever, the kind of clothes and stuff. It was kind of a femmy clothes in a way. It was a different kind of attitude. And then when I got in WASP, it changed, So it's a lot of stuff is taken from the movie The Road Warrior. Yeah. In 81, the leather and the chain stuff, that kind of came into the heavy metal. That's when heavy metal look kind of started, So, and then WASP went glam after that, the Electric Circus.
Right. So you just said before Kiss was probably your favorite concert, right? But I think you've said that Tony Iommi was your favorite guitar player growing up, and he had such a huge influence on you. So talk about his influence on your guitar playing.
Yeah. Growing up, the Black Sabbath albums, you know, Into the Void, and I love the sound of the guitar, the chords, the energy of his sound. It's just, to me, there's no better guitar player ever in heavy metal, as in power, playing power. And yeah, when we toured with him, he came out during when we were sound checking. Never met him, and I went over to shake his hand. And he was standing by my gear looking at it. That's what I used. And yeah, we became good friends.
Nice. So are you still friends with him?
It was, I haven't talked to him for years. So
Sure. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the songs that you co-wrote in W.A.S.P, right? So the first album, which I think is one of the greatest debut albums, maybe of all time, but certainly of the 80s, right? And you helped co-write The Flame and Tormenta. So what do you remember about writing those songs?
The Flame was already written. We had bought it from somebody.
Okay. Didn't know that.
I just helped write the bridge of bought from somebody. I couldn't even tell you. I don't even know if their name's on it or not. Sometimes when you buy a song from somebody, right out and their name doesn't go on it, makes it look like you wrote it. I don't know if I couldn't tell you. When the albums were all done and finished, gone to the record company, you're down and write out who wrote whatever, blah, 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 blah. That's it. It's the guy in the band that wrote anything. I never once ever been to one of those meetings. I don't even know that they happened. Okay. Randy didn't write. Tony didn't really write. Riley didn't write. The other people, it was me. I was the only one, so I don't know. And the other song, would you Tormentor or
Tormentor? Yep, Tormentor. I think you helped write that also.
That's on the Tormentor. Yeah. It's just sitting in the rehearsal room, have the idea of the guitar. Hey, I got this idea. Dun, 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 you know, and then put it together there. I probably wrote the song with Tony on drums. And then Blackie just put the vocals to it later, you know?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
To me, one of the highlights of that album was always Sleeping in the Fire, right? I think that's an incredible song. And you and Randy at the end of that song, especially live, you trade back and forth solos.
Right.
To me, that was such an exciting song. You know, I think you still perform that live with your band, right?
I have to.
Yeah.
I have to. People get mad, you know, they expect it. I will say Randy played the very first solo, the slow bending things. That was Randy playing. I'm not going to lie to you and say it wasn't. And then I play the fast. As live, he would play the first section, the first quarter. I'd play the second. He'd play the third quarter, and I'd play the end one. That's what we do live, you know.
Yeah. No, it was always a great live song to me. And I think you've worked with Randy a little bit on and off since the W.A.S.P days as well, right?
I worked in Randy Piper's Animal. He had a band called Animal. I worked in that for a while. And then I worked with called Angel Suffer, which was his band that he started. And then what happened is the singer's son died and he went into depression for a year. You know, we didn't play. So that's kind of pushed me to do my project. Well, during that time, I was working on an album for a few years with Filthy Animal Taylor.
Yeah.
From Motorhead.
Yeah.
That was during where Angels Suffer. You know, when I'd be home, I would go work with Phil. We'd work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and that's it. And then the rest of the time was off. But we worked every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And it was basically to learn how the computer records.
Okay. That's
what it was started out doing. But then we decided to do an album together. And then Filthy had a brain aneurysm. I was like stuck in limbo. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I got all the music off Phil's computer to put that record out. And he got worse. I wasn't going to try to get back into W.A.S.P. Oh, can I play back with W.A.S.P? Fuck that. I'm done with that crap. You know?
Right. How is it for you all these years later, being a front man for your own band and singing? How is that for you?
Singing and playing is a whole different vibe because you can't entertain the same jumping around and having people watch you do what you do. And so when I play my songs, yeah, I'm stuck to the mic. So I'm not gonna say it's boring. It's not a bummer. It's just the way it is. It's a whole different aspect. Years I tried to band in LA to take me, and I mean I went every channel I possibly knew how to find one, and I couldn't. I know a lot of people, and nobody would. Who's going to take me? Well, how tall are you? How tall are you?
5'9".
Would you like to stand next to somebody that's 6'6" on stage?
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't realize you were that tall. Right. Okay. Right.
Right.
Okay.
So that's one aspect of my. I'm not gonna say it's a problem for me, but it's just people that have like lead singers. You've heard of LSD, right?
Yep.
Lead singer disease. They don't want to stand next to somebody. I auditioned for Ozzy back in '79. Do you think he'd take me? I'd make him look like a shrimp. Of course they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't take me.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I never thought about that, but that makes sense. So going back to the W.A.S.P days and the songwriting, right? To me, the second album, you mentioned it before, The Last Command, right? The song Wild Child, single, one of W.A.S.P's biggest songs. And again, you were a co-writer on that, right? So as a songwriter, that had to feel good that, hey, we've got a lot of MTV exposure with this song. What do you remember about writing that song?
I didn't listen to the lyrics and stuff when we wrote it. I listened to the melody, and now that I listen to the lyrics, I think it's a joke.
Really?
I ride the wind that brings the rain, a creature of love, and I can't be tamed.
Right.
Something that I wouldn't.
Okay.
I never to the lyrics because I don't sing, But I wrote this part of it. This was people, some melodies, The lyrics are a different thing, It was just writing, going to the rehearsal room, having the ideas, writing, pushing out the ideas, the songs,
Right. Do you have a favorite song that you wrote with W.A.S.P during that time period?
I like Wild Child.
Okay.
I like it because I like the instrumental part I like the bridge and the solo, but if you ever watch the video, cut those out.
Yep.
They're cut out.
Right. Which is unfortunate.
Well, because the singer's not the main guy in the thing. Think about it.
Very true.
That's what I look at the record. Look at the cover. It wasn't a band at that point. It was the Blackie Lawless project from there on out. Except the Headless Children. I did all the guitars on that.
Right. Yep. And that's me. I mean, that first album cover, I love that band photo that's on that. It's it so fits the album. It's got a great look. And I love that the first album was a band photo. Yep.
Yeah. Then after that, it's, it's just like you said about having your friends and then the fame. Suppose it eats them up and they get all, whatever in their head. And then it's, look at that, the second album and the third album, it wasn't W.A.S.P anymore. It was used because kids wouldn't buy the Black Lawless project. They're going to buy W.A.S.P, but it was Blackie always wanted it to be just him. When music comes to collaboration between the people, writing the songs, and it's when it's just the one person, it's kind of bland and boring, Look, the Headless Children, Blackie and I butted heads on a lot of the guitar work, but I just I'm going to play it just my way. I'm going to play this, or else I'll be in the band anymore. All right, the Headless Children. That was my favorite. That's me playing all the guitars part what I played. Yeah. So, and then after that, I didn't really play on any album, but he put my name on there. word, you know.
Right. Okay. Now I've read, and I don't know if this is true, and I'm hoping you can hear me right now. So I read that you lent a guitar to Eddie Van Halen to record the Women and Children First album. Is that correct?
In 1919, about the same time I auditioned for Ozzy, I got a motorcycle accident. Van Halen had just come off the road. I was in the hospital, and Ed and I, when we were kids, we had the same guitar, which was called Ibanez, and Ibanez destroyer, made out of certain kind of wood. It had a certain sound. Mm-hmm. Sounded different than the Gibson Explorers. Had a deeper sound because of wood. And he chopped he cut his to make it look cool, and left mine like it was. Okay, he cut a big chunk out of it, and it changed the sound. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't sound the same. I mean, playing live is one thing, but he wanted a certain sound, and mine wasn't cut, so he just borrowed it.
You're saying when we listen to that album, Women and Children First, we're hearing Eddie playing your guitar, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, on some of the stuff, yeah. I couldn't tell you what songs he used it on because I never asked him. Mm-hmm. And it's, in those days, he did his album and gone. He was back out on the road, so I never even asked him what songs he played on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a we didn't go to the same high school, but he was a high school friend. It was an enjoyable thing in my life, seeing somebody going from playing backyard parties to where they went. I mean, mm-hmm. way bigger than W.A.S.P, to where, and how many people he influences is more than any other guitar player probably in the world, other than Jimi Hendrix, but yeah, he was he was a great friend back then, Mm-hmm. I learned an extremely a lot just by going to clubs and with them, why they sound checked and stuff, and just doing this and that. I learned a lot of stuff then before I ever got into the club scene, started playing. I just learned a lot just from being around him.
Yeah. Well, look, he was one of the best, so I could totally understand that. And right. Before we were talking about W.A.S.P, Motley Crue, being on the early LA scene, right? 81, 82 time period. And watching your documentary, it wasn't lost on me that there's a clip in there from Greg Leon, which was playing actually with Motley Crue. So are you still, I guess, friends with him?
Yeah.
That's cool. What do you remember about those early days in the clubs, W.A.S.P and Motley Crue, the LA Sunset Strip?
It was just a drunk blur, being Joe Rockstar, going out every night, drinking, being an idiot, just doing stupid things, mm-hmm. Just having a good time. Mm-hmm. It was a brand new, fresh era, all the music scene was in LA, and everybody, there was more, bands that happened around 84 to 87, and you could imagine in those days, but W.A.S.P was on the very beginning period of that,
It always surprised me that W.A.S.P didn't have more success than they did. Not that, I mean, you guys had some success, but you never quite hit that Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses level. Why do you think that was?
Because you change members all the times. Of course, it won't get that big. Mm-hmm. Look at Motley Crue. They got the same members. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at Metallica. Do they have the same members other than Cliff dying? If Cliff didn't die, he'd probably still be in the band. Mm-hmm. So when you don't change members, of course, the longevity is going to work that way. But then it's like I was watching a video with Freddie Mercury, mm-hmm. and they asked him, how do you keep the longevity of your band, Freddie? And he's sitting there smoking a cigarette, and he goes, we all treat each other equally. That's how we get along. He goes, in most bands that I see, there's always one asshole that runs the band that thinks he's better than everybody else. Mm-hmm. That's, but that's that's the reason why.
No, that totally makes sense to me. Now, just before you mentioned the early 80s being a rock star, and when I watched your documentary, which I thought was great, you said something at the beginning. I'm going to read the quote because I'd love to hear you explain this, right? Because I think there's a great quote. You said, quote, Gene Simmons is a rock star. For me, it's just a way of life. And I thought that was a great quote. So could you just talk about that and what you meant by that?
There's some people that live their life, you know, well, I'm going to be a rock star, and they change their name and they have this image of being somebody, of person doing a. Meatloaf said it once, where he has to go into a different state of mind to go on stage. Mm-hmm. How I could explain it? Let's say the bus goes down the highway. Steve Dern gets out of the bus, goes in the dressing room, puts on Blackie Lawless, goes out, does the Blackie Lawless show, gets off stage, takes off Blackie Lawless, becomes Steve Dern. Now, the bus going down the highway, there's Chris. He gets off the bus, goes in the dressing room, puts on the stage clothes, still Chris. Mm-hmm. Goes out and plays, still Chris. Gets off stage, takes off the stage clothes, still Chris. Doesn't change. That's what I meant about that. Mm-hmm. A lot of musicians I've seen in my life do have to have the two different personality changes to be who they want to be, or their persona in their head. To me, it's not something that, wow, I want people to think that I'm this when I'm not. I mean, I'm the person what they look at, you know. There is no, so it's not something that I've made up to be, you know.
No, and that's one of the things to me that comes through in the documentary is that you seem to be very genuine. You seem to enjoy bringing happiness to the fans, and you show in the documentary time sitting, signing stuff for fans, and to me, it just rings very genuine and real. Is that something that's important to you? That connection with your fans?
Well, without the fans, you wouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've never liked blowing fans off once in my life. I used to get in a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. You know, hurry up, the bus is going, and people would ask them to sign stuff, and I'd stay there and sign whatever they, you know, because they're the fans, man. You know, you can't just blow them off. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of people just blow them off and go around the corner, you know. It's really, it's not in my nature to do that. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not in my nature, you know.
Right. Now, in one of the first scenes in the documentary, also, there's somebody walking down the street and trying to sell a guitar, and it's an acoustic guitar. And you're like, hey, I don't play acoustic guitar, I play electric, right? So what did you think of all of these 80s bands that did like these MTV Unplugged and all these acoustic albums? Is that like not your thing?
I like the energy of the electricity of the guitar. Mm-hmm. I look at guitar playing like drag racing. The guy with the most horsepower wins. I dial in my guitar amps and stuff the way I play, the same way. Mm-hmm. You know, so I like it on 10. I don't like turning down the volume on 9. Mm-hmm. I don't like it starts on 10, goes on 10, and ends on 10. It's always been that way, the way I've always played. Mm-hmm. Acoustic guitar is beautiful sounding, and it's great when you can play them. I can play them. But it's not. I like the electricity, you know, what I've always liked, you know.
Sure. Now, I think that W.A.S.P did on one of their live albums put out an acoustic version of "Sleeping in the Fire," and I've always wondered. So you didn't play on that, right?
I couldn't even tell you. I've never even heard it.
Oh, okay. So I think they cut your solo, your electric solo, from the concert into it. So, but that's not you playing any of the acoustic tracks on it. It sounds like.
No, wouldn't be me.
That clarifies that. I've always wondered, and when I heard that quote in the documentary, I'm like, I got to ask Chris about that because I was wondering. So thank you for clearing that up.
Believe it or not, I can actually play acoustic guitar pretty good. But, but you being a guitar player, right, or knowing a little bit about guitar, I can see when I play chords on guitar, I usually play the root and fifth. Okay. I don't like the sound of the third. I just never have in my life. It's Tony Iommi. He never hits the third.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, and I used to work at Sirwin Vega Speaker Company, and I've learned why I don't like it. With distortion, the harmonic distortion in high register turns the white noise and pink noise.
Okay.
Okay, it's just a sound thing.
Sure.
So on acoustic guitar, if you play just 2 notes, you got a really small variety of what you can play. Mm-hmm. You're not playing an E minor diminished chord or this or that. That's what's cool about acoustic. You can play all different chords. I like the raw energy on 10 with the 2-note chord. It's the way I've always liked it, and I can't change that.
And no reason to, right? I mean, that's what hard rock, right? It started with Black Sabbath, and we spoke about Tony Iommi and the influence there, and it's a hard rock crunch guitar sound. It's not an acoustic.
Yeah.
I like the acoustic, but hard rock is based off that hard electric sound.
Yeah, there's a few ways to hit chords. You can hit a G, an E, an A sometimes, where you hit all 6 strings and it's only 2 notes. Okay, like you can hit at the 7th fret. You can hit an E power chord, but you can also do it down at the nut where it's only 2 strings, and I like that sound. I've always liked the way that rings on the guitar. We used to play live Wild Child. It's in G flat or F sharp, the song, ba-na-na-na, and then it hits a D, and then it hits a B, and it has to be a B minor.
Okay.
And I always hate playing that minor note, and Blackie'd scream at me, "Chris, when we play live, you got to hit the B minor." Throw in a guitar lick that I felt instead of hitting the B minor, but he'd get really mad when I didn't play the B minor. I play a B, but it's just the way that I play. Yeah. It's I know it makes it so your variety of sounds is a lot smaller, but that's just the way I like to play. That's the way I've always played since I was a kid.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people do talk about the guitar sounds, especially on that first W.A.S.P album, that they love it. And so I know it's both you and Randy, right? But you guys really accomplished a great sound of guitar on that album.
Yeah, but man, come on. Put on a Judas Priest album from that era, and listen to the guitar sound. Priest at least turned the guitars up. W.A.S.P, they're buried in the mix.
So you're not happy with the production on the album, it sounds like.
But I just know that you don't go in and fight with the producer about you want this and that and that. Everybody can't do that, so I never do. I just put up with what they did, and that's I know if you do that, nothing ever gets done.
Sure.
The producer gets to say the way it's going to be. So, if I got an EP, I don't know if you heard it, called The Devil Made Me Do It. That's the way I would do the guitar sound.
Okay.
Loud guitar. The voice is a little bit in the back, but Balakie's voice has to be up front. That's the way you can't have everything up front. It don't work that way.
Sure.
Oh, so as me saying, "Wow, that's a killer record" or whatever. If people think that's good, they can. But my personal opinion isn't. The Headless Children's a little bit better because the guitars are a little bit more out front. It's more of a heavier sounding record, but plus I personally the beats on the first album, most of those songs are I don't know the name of them, a shuffle beat, do to bapa do to bapa do to, they're not a rock beat like Bang Your Head,
right?
So but Tormentor's a rock beat. If I Want to Be Somebody, which is a fast up tempo, song.
Sure.
Everybody's got their own bag, it was the mix between Blackie and I going at it about how we're going to play songs and stuff. When we toured, the way it was mixed and mic'd live was my way. If it was my way, it's or else the highway. I don't do it. Me and the engineer out front ran the band.
So I remember, and I had this
Blackie. I will say at least.
So you like the mix on that better, right? I guess. That does the live video.
It was mixed in a studio after.
Okay.
That wasn't really how it was live, but that was all mixed after.
Okay.
But that's live. I like live is my bag. I love playing live.
Sure. So to that point, then the first time I saw W.A.S.P live was March of '85. You were opening up for Kiss on the Kiss tour, right? So what do you remember about that tour with Kiss? Anything comes to mind?
It was two bands, when you go on tour in an arena situation selling shirts, merchandising and all that stuff, it gets to be a big push and pull thing about, you know, how much PA power you get and this and that, how many shirts you sell, and it's business. It's business. It's not music at that point. It's business. We W.A.S.P went out in the early days. We to smoke, or not smoke, but to sound as good, if not better, than the headliner.
Of course.
On a Kiss tour, if we got 100% of the PA, we can only sell 2 lines of merchandising. Yeah. Now, if we got 80% of PA, no subs, we could have 10 lines of merchandising.
Okay.
That's business.
Right.
So it works. What would you rather do? I would rather have the PA, 2 lines of merchandising. You know, because if you come through playing and if they'd have gave us 80% of the PA, no subs, we would have sound like crap compared to Kiss.
Right. Of course.
But since we got 100% of PA, yeah. And the first 2 weeks on that tour, Gene and Paul didn't check the tallies of how much was being made. And we had all our merchandising out because it was 2 different companies on the road. We had Great Southernland, they had Winterland, and we were raking in more than they were. And they put a stop to that real quick when they found out.
Oh man, that's.
I walked in one day about on the 3rd week and found out. Guess what, guys? You don't sound check. Your gear doesn't get on the stage until the doors are even open. And we were like, but that's how the contract. That was written in the contracts before, you know. But that's the way it works.
No, and I can tell you, I went to that show when I went to that tour there, and a big Kiss fan. But I went to see you guys because to me that album at that time was the album, and you guys put on a great show that night that I saw you.
And we probably sounded better than Kiss.
Now after that, you guys went out on tour with Iron Maiden, Metallica, right? So how were those tours?
Metallica was cool. It was young. We were young kids. Just, you know, that was before Kiss. Metallica.
That was before Kiss, yeah.
Ride the Lightning. We were young and it was something new to everybody, and they were great guys in the band, you know, with Cliff, and I partied with those guys like you wouldn't believe, man. They were like great people to be around, fun to be around. Iron Maiden was the best because they were same management.
Okay.
So, and same merchandise company. Wasn't a big fight on the road. They made sure we sound checked every night, gave us whatever you want, 100% of PA. I mostly travel on their buses.
Oh, okay. So obviously it sounds like you got along with them good.
Well, yeah. And they, you know, me being from LA, you know, and they're in English, and it's just, they like my personality, and it's get on their bus and have a good time instead of you get on the W.A.S.P bus, you got to do go when Blackie wants to go and do what he wants to do, you know. And the Iron Maiden guys, they all treated me not lower, not higher. It's the same level. And it was great. I loved it. It was probably some of the best times of my life.
That sounds very cool. Now, in more recent years, you moved out of the States, right? I think you're over in Europe at this point. Do you ever look back and say, "Hey, I miss living in the States"? Or are you? I know you're happy where you are, and that shows in the documentary. But do you ever miss the States?
There's a lot of things that I need to get sometimes, like certain kind of screws. Or certain things. I can't. The screws and stuff here are completely different than in America. The tools, you know, it's all metric. When I got a solder, you know, I used to work under a microscope soldering, so I solder all my instruments, and I do my rack and solder all my cords. But the solder here doesn't have any lead in it.
Okay.
So just things like that I miss having. In Los Angeles, when I was out of W.A.S.P, and I wasn't somebody at that point, I was famous at one time. Now I'm not. I was kind of a has-been. So coming over here, I'm not a has-been. You know, and to get my career going over here is a lot. I'm not a has-been.
Sure, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. You know, before we were talking about how you've kept your childhood friends. You know, we're talking about, you know, some of the different things in the documentary where you're like in an art show and you're seeing different sides of you. And I find it maybe a little ironic that the name of your documentary is Mean Man, right? The name of your band, Mean Man. Yet to me, from the outside looking in, you seem anything but a mean man. You seem like such a down to earth person.
Well, you know the album The Headless Children?
Yes.
Okay, there's a song called Mean Man. And who's that written about? When I first started, I was using the thing I called my band Chips.
Okay.
Remember, you know, Ponch and John and Chips?
Yes, of course.
Chip?
Eric Estrada.
CHP. I had a Highway Patrol. That's why one of my guitars has a Highway Patrol sticker on it. Chips. But Chips standing for Chris Holmes Project.
Okay.
CHP. That's what I started it as. And then when I came over here, I was like, nobody knows who Chips is. So it's kind of dumb. So that's why I decided to call it Mean Man. And if anybody that's a W.A.S.P fan would know who Mean Man is. So that's why I use that.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
And as being a mean man, what do you consider mean? I mean, you know, ISIS is mean.
ISIS, yes, that is true. No,
they're mean.
And one of the things I get from you through the documentary and through talking to you today is relationships are important. Relationships with your fans, relationship with your friends from, you know, when you were younger, that's important to you. Yeah.
Well, I'm from California. In the early days when W.A.S.P started playing, most of the people in the audience were my friends. You know, and the first shows that we played they were mostly my personal friends. And all the stuff, the stage stuff, the signs, everything that we built, and all the road crew guys were all my friends. We built all the stuff at my friend's shop. So W.A.S.P would have never been W.A.S.P unless I was in the situation, you know.
Sure.
Everything was done because I'm a native from there, so I know all my friends are there, you know. So your friends you grow up with are your friends, you know, in high school. You can't change those, you know.
No.
I graduated in 76, and the era from 70 or 68 to 76 was probably one of the most beautiful musical eras ever in the world. For 68, I mean, the Beatles were 67, but from 68 to 76, that era was one of the most beautiful times on this planet. You know, as music, concerts, and being from California. Where'd you grow up at?
So I'm a New Yorker pretty much my entire life.
So you never experienced the California drug craze?
No, I did not. I didn't. Read about it, but I never experienced it firsthand.
It's a completely different. It's just a completely different mindset of being the way brought up, you know.
Without a doubt. Now, talking about being brought up different ways, one of the things I love is, you know, we were talking before the Western Civilization movie and scene, and your mom is there by the pool with you, and in the new documentary, your mom is in the documentary, and behind her is one of your gold albums, right? Has your mom always been very supportive of you and you wanted to pursue music?
Yeah. She was always supportive of me. When I played with sister, God, from 78, 79, then left, but then when he got a hold of me in 81 to join W.A.S.P, you know, I had to tell him, let me go ask my mom if I can live at her house for free and not have to do a job, because you can't really do a job, you know, for 40 hours a week and expect to play at night. It just doesn't work.
Right.
Just, you know, you can't do them 100%.
Sure.
So I went back and asked my mom, hey, I've got this band, and can I stay here and work on this band? And she goes, well, do you think it'll make it? And I go, yeah. My mom my mom worked at a place called Buffalo Metalworks. So they're the ones that did old Blackie's saw blades and stuff like that. Welded them. I welded up the mic stands and they chromed the stuff and just things like that. She's always been supportive. I redid the Decline of Western Civilization. I did in 2017.
Yep.
Sober.
Yep. I thought that was absolutely a brilliant idea to me, right? And you're sitting on the float in the pool, but it shows.
Same questions.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Same questions.
Same questions, exactly. Yep, same questions.
Yeah.
Did that help you kind of bring that to closure after all of the years of so many people talking about that? No,
it was just a cool idea from Antoine, the producer of the documentary. It's just kind of his idea. We did it at his grandma's pool in the south of France. There, and it was just was his idea, kind of, and my wife's. I had done a scene like that for a guy that was doing a documentary on Randy Rhoads.
Okay.
Probably 10 years ago. They asked me to do that in a pool. And so I did it for them. And I remember it was November and the pool wasn't heated and I was getting hypothermia, but I still did it. And then, and it was cool. They asked me questions about Randy and stuff being brought up, that era. And then, it was just an idea to do that, It just shows a different, if I was sober and they were asking the same question,
Right. Did you, before we were talking about the Ozzy thing, and I didn't realize that you had auditions for Ozzy. Do you ever look back at that and say, gee, what could have been, how my life would have been different maybe had Ozzy taken me as his guitarist?
It's the way Sharon runs the band, and Don Costa left WASP. He had to play with Ozzy, and he got thrown out of Ozzy for being an entertainer. It wouldn't have lasted with me.
Right.
They wouldn't have been able to go, Chris, just stand here. Like Tony Iommi, he's a great player, no matter what. But like, he doesn't really jump around the stage like Peter Townsend did. So Ozzy's the main character on stage. It wouldn't have worked with me.
No, I think that makes sense.
So it's, at the time I was young, I was like, yeah, man, maybe I can get the gig. But, nowadays I look how, plus I remember when he walked in the room, he went, holy God, who's this guy? And it was me.
Right. Because it goes back to what you were saying before, being 6'6", right?
Yeah. The height.
Right. Absolutely. Now, we started this off by talking about the documentary, came out a few weeks ago. Is there any thoughts to put this out on Blu-ray or DVD, or is it going to be strictly a streaming thing online?
It's on Blu-ray.
Oh, is it? Okay. I didn't see that.
They just did a whole bunch of it's on Blu-ray. And if anybody wants to buy it, they just go to Bandcamp.
Okay.
And look up Chris Holmes or Sarah, my wife, and they got the Blu-rays. Yeah, I got tons of Blu-rays.
Awesome. Oh, that's good to know. I'll have to check that out. Now, is there any bonus footage on the Bluray? Because I know sometimes people do that.
Yes, there is. There's
okay.
A bunch. I haven't seen it. I just saw the documentary, but I've seen the Blu-rays, and yes, it's got bonus stuff on there. Yeah.
Now I know again.
Cleopatra. I think they only sell it in America.
Okay.
On Amazon or whatever, but I don't think that they do it in Europe. So for anybody in Europe, it'd be go on Bandcamp, because you get it from my website with Bandcamp from there.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Definitely need to check that out. Again, I know reading Lita Ford's book, as I did a few years ago, and she has some things about you in there. She said that you loved to cook when the two of you together. Do you still like to cook?
I like to barbecue.
Okay.
Or grill. I love gas grill flame. That's my profession. I ate at a place in Cincinnati where they had the best ribs I've ever had in my life. And the waitress, I was like, how do you cook these? She wouldn't tell me. She wouldn't tell me. But I finally, I was trying to give her money. I go, how do you cook these? I go, how in the hell do you cook these? And when I was walking out, she said, hey, come here. And she pulled me aside and she goes, we pressure cook them. before we put them on the grill. I was like, I got a pressure cooker.
Okay.
So I used to like to make chicken chili. You throw in a whole chicken in a pressure cooker, cook it for about 8 minutes, and boom, the bones pressure cooking. But take the ribs and you pressure cook them for 6, and you throw them on the barbecue, and man, the meat comes right off the bones.
Right. When you look back on your career now, right? We're all getting older, right? That happens to all of us. Do you feel happy and satisfied with the work that you've done? Do you wish things could have been different?
I drank a lot. I mean, in my household growing up, there was alcohol. Everything had fun had alcohol. So that's just, I'm an alcoholic, I guess. No, I wouldn't have changed anything. If I would have dug in and known about the publishing thing in the first album, I wouldn't have made it to the second album. That's why they kept me so long. Yeah, I would have went, hey, no, fuck you. I want this, I want that. No, it wouldn't have lasted that long. So it's probably good that I didn't know about that, and as being married, you just make, mistakes with people or whatever. You're together and you grow apart, It's just a fun part of my life. I wouldn't change anything. I had out of everybody I've ever met and known, I think my upbringing is probably one of the coolest upbringings that most people, of what my mom let me do. I didn't have a father. I didn't have a dad. I had stepdads, but they can't tell you what to do. They can only suggest. And I got to do a lot of things in Boy Scouts. Like go down the Grand Canyon on an 8-day trip, things like that. Had a great upbringing.
That's awesome. And to me, one of the things watching the documentary, I know you talk about the publishing, and then earlier when we were talking, you were talking about how The Flame was actually a song purchased, which I never knew that. So I mean, that's just I'll say the underbelly of the music business, unfortunately, right? So
there's a few songs that were purchased in WASP.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Any others you can share, or do you not want to go there?
Well, Cries in the Night used to be called Mr. Cool.
Okay.
His sister, that I always thought Blackie wrote, but he didn't, because he got sued he got sued for it by Arthur Kane, and he paid Arthur Kane the publishing. Arthur Kane had wrote that, which is called Mr. Cool, but the main riff of the song changed to Cries in the Night. I remember getting screamed about, "You're lucky you didn't do the publishing," blah blah blah. But anyway, the song, The Last, yeah. Oh, wow. There's a song called The Last Command, right?
Yes, there was, yeah.
That was written by somebody else.
Oh, wow, okay.
In Botten. Oh, God. Just about, it's hard. It's a long time ago.
It's a long time ago. A lot of parties in between then and now.
Yeah. It was a fun era, growing up. I wouldn't change nothing.
No.
I'm still friends with in early days, a lot of people, the roadies, were promised jobs in the 82 when they did WASP. They were promised jobs if we got a deal and went on the road. But once we got a deal, it was like, we got to hire professionals. Well, but they're still my friends, a lot of those people.
Yep. It's like we said before, it's one of the things that's consistent throughout your entire story, how you stay connected with those people. And I think that's really cool. As we get older, how do you want to be remembered? When the day comes that maybe, none of us are here anymore, how do you want to be remembered?
As somebody that treated people with respect and dignity.
That's awesome. I love it. It's a great answer. I love it.
Yeah, I don't want to be remembered as somebody just walked on the bus and blew people off. No, it was respect and dignity. Everybody,
Nope, I love it. That's a great answer. So the documentary, I know I was able to watch it on Amazon Prime. Like you said, it's on Blu-ray. Anything else? The documentary? Anything that you want your fans to know about you? Anything you're working on right now?
I've had a record in the midst for about a year and a half.
Okay.
I did an EP called Under the Influence, which is it's an EP to the record, which is called Unbearable Influence.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been able to, the money that I play live, I pay for the recording. Mm-hmm. And so I haven't been able to play live for a year now. Mm-hmm. So I can't get it finished recording. Plus the drummer lives in England.
Okay.
And it's with the COVID, I got to wait till everybody's inoculated. We're done and I can finish it. Mm-hmm. You know?
Makes sense.
So yeah, I'll have that finished when I can, as soon as possible. And there's some great songs on there that I think are great. You know, they've gotten better as a step from my first record with Filthy that I sang on half the record, and the next one, Shit and Bricks, is a little bit more singing. You know, and then the last one I sang on all of them. So.
And do you feel comfortable as a singer?
There's a few. Yeah. I love putting the words together. I know I don't have the best voice, nor do I want to, but it's compared to the way some people in some of these bands sing, my voice is okay. I mean, there's some haters that tell me to not sing and just play guitar, you know, but they're always going to get the haters. That's fine with me.
Look, Bob Dylan didn't have a traditional voice. Ozzy Osbourne doesn't have a traditional voice. Sometimes it's about attitude.
Yeah. Dave Roth ain't got the best voice.
That's
Lemmy.
True. Mm-hmm.
Lemmy didn't.
Right. You know? We go on and on. It's not always about the best voice.
Yeah. Right. But I love the song I wrote called The Devil Made Me Do It. Mm-hmm. The idea of that song, you know where that comes from?
Where?
Ever seen Flip Wilson?
No.
Flip Wilson? The Flip Wilson show back in the 70s?
No, I did not. I was not a big TV guy as a kid.
Oh, okay.
I was sitting there with my records reading all the liner notes. I wasn't watching TV.
All right. My parents watched it all the time, and there was a character on there called Geraldine, and she always said that. The devil made me do it, baby.
Gotcha. Okay. That's very cool.
It just stuck in my mind, and and the song's written about me being a kid in my 17s, drinking and doing all the crazy stuff in the way I thought, you know, so. Mm-hmm.
That's the way. That's awesome. So 25 years sober now. Do you feel like a totally different person?
Well, if I still drank, I'd be dead for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, because your liver gives out after a while. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look at things a lot different. I appreciate a lot. You know, it's not, my head's not stuck in a bottle, drinking that up and trying to get another one. Mm-hmm. I see things a lot different. You know.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, this has been an honor for me. Is there anything else you want to say to your fans before we wrap up?
Just treat people how you want to be treated.
Love it.
You know,
Love it.
That's the best.
Love it. Well, continued health for you, Chris. I hope things do clear up and you're able to get the EP done and get it out there sooner rather than later. I'll strongly recommend everybody check out Mean Man, the documentary, the story of Chris Holmes. It's a great story, a lot of fun to watch. And thank you, Chris, for everything.
All right, cool.
Awesome. Take it easy. Thank you very much. Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank Chris Holmes for spending over an hour with me, chatting everything Mean Man, W.A.S.P, Van Halen, Kiss, and so much more. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciated it. To all the fans watching and listening to this, if you haven't done so already, check out the Mean Man documentary. I think you guys will really love it. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.